I wanted to walk away, but staying hurt more. I'm scared to be alone, but even more scared to leave him. I keep telling myself it'll get better, that he'll change, that I'll feel loved again. But last night I slept facing the wall while he slept peacefully beside me. This morning I checked my phone. He didn't text. He didn't call. But my sister did 14 times. I slept facing the wall again. Not because I was mad. Not even because I was hurt. I just didn't want to look at Marcus. And he didn't ask why. His breathing stayed slow, steady, peaceful, like he had nothing weighing on his chest. Meanwhile, my eyes stayed open, locked on the blank wall in front of me. I counted the cracks in the plaster. I replayed the last 3 arguments we never really resolved. I told myself not to cry this time, that maybe tomorrow he'd say something, anything, that would make me feel like I still mattered. But morning came like a slap, not a sunrise. I reached for my phone, hoping for what? A good morning text while he slept inches away from me. An unread apology from the man snoring behind me. Instead, I saw 14 missed calls. All from Brenna. I bolted upright. My heart jackhammered into my throat as I tapped into my call log. 3 voicemails, 2 texts, 1 picture. Marcus didn't stir. The first voicemail started with static. Then her voice cracked through. "Call me now, it's Dad. Please." I jumped out of bed so fast I knocked over the glass of water on the nightstand. It crashed to the floor. Still, Marcus didn't wake up. "Marcus," I said, voice shaky. "Marcus." Nothing. I didn't have time to shake him again. I grabbed my charger and sprinted to the living room, phone pressed to my ear. Second voicemail, "Where are you? Why aren't you picking up?" Third voicemail, "They're running more tests. I'm at the hospital now. He's asking for you." The picture came last. My dad, lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, his eyes half open, lips parted in mid-sentence. Brenna had captioned it, "He keeps saying your name." And I had missed it. Because I had gone to bed angry. Because I had decided, just this once, not to chase Marcus for affection. Because I hadn't wanted to wake up to another morning pretending everything was fine. I called Brenna. She picked up before the first ring finished. "Finally," she snapped. "Jesus, what the hell, Liv? 14 calls? Are you serious?" "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't hear my phone." "You didn't hear it because of him. Don't lie." My throat tightened. "Brenna." "No, don't even. I told you last week, this whole ghost of a boyfriend thing is making you a ghost too. You missed Dad's results. You missed the car ride to the hospital. You missed me, Liv." I looked toward the hallway. He was still sleeping. "I'm coming now," I said quickly. "Just give me 10 minutes." 10 minutes, she scoffed. "What, you have to ask him first?" That one landed, deep. "No," I said, standing taller. "I'm coming, I promise. Make sure you do." She hung up. I grabbed my keys and started getting dressed in the kitchen, quietly, like a thief in my own house. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want the questions. I didn't want Marcus to look at me with that dull expression he always gave when anything wasn't about him. But the silence got to me, so I walked back into the bedroom. He was still asleep. "Marcus," I said louder. "Hey." His eyes fluttered open. "What?" "I'm going to the hospital. My dad, he's not doing well." He blinked a few times. "What happened?" "They're doing tests. Brenna's been trying to reach me all night." "Oh," he yawned. "You okay?" I stared at him, blank. "He's in the hospital, Marcus." "Yeah, no, I mean you okay? Like, do you need me to come?" My jaw clenched. "No. I'll be fine." He nodded and rolled back over, just like that. Not even a keep me posted. Not even a hand on my arm, just silence again. I left. And on the way to the hospital, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I messaged the group chat. "Me. Is it normal to feel this alone in a relationship?" Sky sends a gif of a clown putting on makeup. Lanny, "No, it's not." Nadia, "Girl. What happened now?" And just like that, the second storm rolled in, this one full of chaos, color, and fire. My people. My truth-tellers. And I hadn't even told them everything yet. By the time I pulled into the hospital parking lot, the group chat was a wildfire. Sky, "Let me guess. Man snoozing while your life burns down again." Lanny, "Seriously though, did you talk to him? Did you say anything?" Nadia, "I just want to know why y'all keep dating boys who sleep through emergencies." I smiled, just a twitch of the mouth, but it was more than Marcus ever pulled from me lately. I typed quickly. "Me, My dad's in the hospital. I woke up to 14 missed calls. Marcus didn't even flinch. Sky, I knew it. I had a feeling last night. The silence in your text was screaming. Lanny, girl, I'm sorry, but also what the actual hell? He didn't check in. Didn't even roll over. Nadia, this is some glazed donut behavior. Sweet looking on the outside, hollow in the middle. I sat there, phone in one hand, keys in the other, frozen. The first time I'd had people who actually reacted, and not with indifference, not with maybe you're overthinking it, but full-blown rage. I didn't even notice Brenna walking toward my car until she yanked the passenger door open. You texting your man? She asked, eyes narrowed. Because unless you're sending a breakup paragraph, I don't want to see it. It's the girls, I said quickly. They're just processing with me. Brenna got in and slammed the door. Tell them I said hi, she muttered, and to keep the heat coming. The phone vibrated again. Sky, tell Brenna I've got bail money ready. Me, she said, keep the heat coming. Lanny, good, because I've got a list. Nadia, same, starting with, how long are you gonna keep letting someone forget you exist? I stared at that last message. It hit me deeper than I expected. The question wasn't angry, it wasn't even judgmental, it was tired. Like she'd been watching this slow unravel from the sidelines for too long. I'm not ready to leave, I typed slowly. Then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, I don't know what I'm doing. Sky replied instantly, Sky, you don't have to know. You just have to stop pretending he does. Then Lanny sent a screenshot of a quote. Sometimes the people who make us feel most alone are the ones sharing our bed. That one stung. You okay? Brenna asked, softer now. No, I said honestly, but I think I'm finally hearing it, all of it. We didn't speak the rest of the way in, but the group chat didn't stop. It kept buzzing as I walked into the hospital, like a string tied to my heart, tugging me back toward reality, toward the people still fighting for me to feel something again. When we reached the elevator, Brenna turned to me. Liv, she said. I looked at her. You missed the first call, but you're here now. Don't let that man be the reason you miss another one. I nodded, but deep down, I wasn't just worried about missing calls. I was worried I was missing myself. The second we walked into Dad's hospital room, his eyes lit up not with joy, but with a mix of relief and quiet hurt. He didn't say, I'm glad you're here. He said, you missed the first one. Brenna didn't let go of my arm. I tried to step forward, but she stayed attached, as if she didn't trust me not to collapse or bolt. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't check my phone, I didn't know. He just nodded and looked away. The air in the room thickened with unsaid things. Dr. Amal already came and left, he muttered, scratching the edge of his wrist where the IV had irritated his skin. Your mother asked why you weren't here. That did it. That single sentence, casually dropped, made my chest ache worse than anything Brenna or the girls had said. I opened my mouth to explain, but Brenna beat me to it. She didn't come because she was in bed with her emotionally constipated boyfriend, Brenna snapped, who, for the record, didn't notice 14 missed calls. 14. Dad blinked, what? I wanted to disappear. Bren, I muttered, tugging her arm. Not here, please. No, here, especially here, her voice cracked. You think it's just about missed calls? She's been disappearing for months and none of us noticed. Because he was slowly making her smaller, while we were too busy assuming everything was fine. My mother appeared at the door holding a tray of food. Everything okay? She asked. No, Brenna said without missing a beat. Brenna, I warned, but it was useless. He's the reason she missed Dad's update, she continued, addressing our mom like a prosecutor addressing a jury. He's why she flinches every time someone raises their voice. He's why she hasn't smiled for real in weeks. Mom put down the tray slowly and looked at me. Is that true? She asked. I don't want to talk about it, I said. Why not? Brenna challenged. Why not now? Why not in front of the people who actually love you? Dad sat back. Maybe we should give her space. No, Mom cut in. No more space. She's had too much of it, from him, from us, from herself. I want to know who he is. I want to know what he did. I felt like a defendant suddenly handed the mic, but I didn't have the words. I was still figuring it out myself. I don't know, I said. He's not bad, he's just not good for me, not right now. Mom nodded slowly. Dad looked confused but said nothing. Brenna looked furious. Still, the heat in the room cooled slightly, Then my phone buzzed. Marcus, not a call, just a message. Hope your dad's okay. That was it. No, I'm sorry. No, how are you? I showed it to Brenna, her nostrils flared. He thinks that's checking in. Mom took the phone, read the message, and handed it back. What do you want to do, Liv? She asked gently. Not what you think you should do. Not what we say, what you want. It was the first time I'd been asked that without judgment attached. Without someone waiting for me to defend the decision they assumed I'd already made. I don't know, I admitted, but I know I'm tired. Mom stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I had to earn the comfort. Brenna placed a hand on my back. You don't have to figure it out today, she said, but you don't have to do it alone either. And that was when I realized maybe Marcus hadn't checked in because I was right there, as he liked to say. But Brenna had called 14 times. My dad had asked for me. My mother had put down a tray to pick up a truth I didn't want to name. They saw me. They still saw me. Marcus didn't. The next morning started quiet. Too quiet. I moved around the kitchen like a ghost, putting on water for tea, slicing bread without purpose, trying not to hear the way Marcus's slippers shuffled across the tiles like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't texted me once during the family fallout. Like he hadn't pretended everything was fine when it very much wasn't. He walked in, yawning, phone in hand. Morning, he said, voice groggy, casual. I didn't respond. I placed a mug in front of me and stirred the tea like it needed convincing to warm me. I texted last night, he added, leaning against the counter. Hope your dad's okay. That made me look up. Is that what you call checking in now? He blinked, thrown. What? 14 missed calls from Brenna, I said. You sent a sentence. 1. I didn't think you wanted to talk. No, I snapped. You didn't think, period. He scoffed, half laughing. You're mad at me for not blowing up your phone like your sister. You're missing the point, Marcus. What is the point then? He asked, raising his voice for the first time. You were literally in the bed next to me. Why do I need to send a novel when you're right there? That's exactly why, I said. Because I was right there and you still didn't see me. He sighed, rubbed his face. Here we go. Before he could spiral into his usual defense, my cousin Amira padded into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She stopped when she saw us, caught the energy in the air like static before a storm. Did I walk into something? She asked. No, I said, glaring at Marcus. We were just finished. Oh, now we're finished, Marcus shot back. Because I didn't send some magical text while you were off ignoring me all day. I was at the hospital, Marcus. He flinched, Amira backed toward the hallway. Wait, what happened? She asked carefully. My dad had tests. I missed the update because I was lying in bed next to someone who didn't care enough to nudge me and say, Hey, maybe check your phone. That's not fair, Marcus said. No. What's not fair is me having to beg you to act like a partner. Amira crossed her arms. You didn't tell me about Uncle Deo. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to make it about me, I muttered. Well, Amira said slowly, looking between us, maybe it's time you start. Marcus huffed. So now your cousin's ganging up on me. No one's ganging up on you, Amira replied sharply. But maybe if more people called you out, Liv wouldn't feel so alone. The room went still. You can go, I said to Marcus, voice low now. We're done for real this time. He didn't move. Amira handed him his keys from the bowl by the door. He took them, didn't say goodbye, just left. And that silence felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in months. It was supposed to be just a quick appearance. That's what he said when he texted. My sister's birthday tonight, you don't have to stay long. And like an idiot, I went. After everything, the missed calls from Brenna, the blowout in our kitchen, and Amira having to physically hand him his keys to get him to leave, I still thought, maybe he'll apologize. Maybe this time he'll show up. I even made him a plate. Shrimp skewers, a slice of jollof pie, a mini puff-puff tower I'd stacked like it was a damn apology for my own anger. But the apology I wanted never came. Instead, I stood there with that stupid plate in my hand when I overheard it. Yeah, we're kinda taking space right now, Marcus said, laughing. His sister, Kemi, giggled and said something I didn't catch, but the word space echoed in my ears louder than the Afrobeats thumping in the living room. I blinked. Did he really just say that, taking space? Because I was under the impression that we were still together. Just Rocky. But apparently, to the crowd around his sister's birthday cake, I was the clingy girlfriend who couldn't take a hint. I turned slowly and caught Kemi's friend Bianca watching me from across the room. Her eyes widened and she mouthed, "You okay?" I shook my head. Bianca moved toward me, gently slid the plate from my hand, and whispered, "You don't need to be here." But I was frozen. My fingers were clenched, nails digging into my palms. "You should go," she added, her voice low but urgent, "before you do something that becomes the main character on Instagram." I nodded barely, walked out into the garden and called Brenna. She picked up on the first ring. "You're calling me back." I didn't speak, I just breathed. "What happened?" "Marcus told everyone we're taking space," I said, voice shaking. Brenna let out a sound that was half laugh, half scoff. "Taking space? He's lucky I'm not taking his kneecaps." In the background, I heard our mom ask, "She's okay?" "No, Mom," Brenna said. "She's not." I ended the call before I broke down, but I wasn't alone for long. Bianca came out to join me, handing me a bottle of cold water and standing in silence beside me. "You're not crazy," she said finally. "He's just very good at pretending you are." Later that night, Jazz texted, "Next time he calls it space, tell him the stars called." They don't want him either. The group chat exploded. "Nadia, let's launch a rocket and send him into that space." "Sky, nah, let's block him from the Wi-Fi in the galaxy." It was chaos, and it was exactly what I needed. Still, that night I slept on Amira's couch. Because while I could laugh with my friends, the truth still burned. I was in love with someone who was already rehearsing his exit speech at birthday parties. Amira was already making tea when I woke up on her couch the next morning. I hadn't really slept, just closed my eyes and tried to convince myself that numbness was rest. My phone, which I'd silenced, lit up again. "Brenna, again, 4 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and now a text, 'I'm sorry, I had to.' You're gonna hate me, but I told Mom." I didn't have the strength to open the voicemails. I just groaned and handed the phone to Amira. "Please tell me my family isn't staging an intervention before I brush my teeth." She glanced at the screen and winced. "Baby girl, they already did." Before I could even stand up, my phone buzzed again, this time with a FaceTime request. I declined. It rang again. I hit accept out of sheer exhaustion. Suddenly, I was staring at my mother's forehead and a chaotic room full of familiar voices. "Why didn't you pick up? She's still with that boy. Tell her to come home. Somebody mute Uncle Jerry." "Everybody shut UP," Brenna snapped. "Let her speak." The screen finally stabilized to show my mom, my Aunt Shari, 2 cousins, my dad, sitting on the edge of his seat like he was about to launch into a sermon, and my little niece bouncing in the background asking if this meant we were coming over for jollof. It was a family meeting, and I was the agenda. "I'm fine," I croaked. "You're not fine," my mom said. "You missed Dad's appointment. The doctor was asking for you." The shame landed like a slap. I had completely forgotten. While I was standing in the backyard of Marcus's sister's party, trying to remember how to breathe after hearing I'd been demoted to taking space, my father was sitting in a hospital room wondering if his daughter would show up. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "He asked for you," Mom repeated, quieter this time. "He said, 'Tell my girl I'm proud of her, but tell her she has to stop shrinking.'" My eyes welled up. Aunt Shari leaned in toward the screen. "Listen, I love Marcus, but he's not the man who holds your future. He's the man holding it hostage." There were murmurs of agreement. Someone clapped. I think it was Cousin Junior. "Can I come home?" I asked, voice breaking. "You never left," Dad said. "You just forgot you could." The call ended with promises I'd see them for dinner. We'd talk in person. But in that moment, something cracked open. I wasn't just hurting because Marcus didn't love me right. I was hurting because I had let his love eclipse every other kind of love I had access to. My friends, my family, myself. I sat back on Amira's couch and exhaled so deeply it made her turn around from the kitchen. "What happened?" she asked, placing the tea beside me. "My family threw a digital riot," I said. "And apparently I'm the only one who didn't know Marcus was trash." She smiled, lifted her mug, and said, "Well, welcome to the revolution." Lanny didn't wait for a response. The moment I dropped the phone after my family's call, she sent a picture of her guest room with the caption, "Your escape plan. Sheets are clean, doors open." Sky followed up with, "Just say the word." I'm bringing the moving boxes. Then Nadia, never one to be subtle, dropped a screenshot in the group chat. A mock Venmo transaction with the note, Freedom Fund, for the love she forgot to give herself. $50. Sky added $25 right after. It didn't even feel real at first. I stared at the messages as if they belonged to someone else. I had been living in a fog so thick, it was like the rest of the world had gone quiet. But now, my friends were yelling in texts, in voice notes, in sheer, ridiculous energy. It was the kind of love that doesn't wait for you to say you need help. Okay, I typed, hands trembling. I'll come by tomorrow. Lanny immediately called. You said tomorrow, but let me just remind you, tonight is still a thing. And you've already packed half of yourself emotionally. I haven't packed anything, I replied. A pause. Girl, emotionally, she said again. You've already zipped up your self-respect in a suitcase. The rest is just logistics. Behind her, I heard Sky yell, tell her to bring her chargers. Every woman forgets her chargers. I laughed like real laughed. It was the first moment in days that didn't feel like grief. And just like that, the plan was in motion. Sky came over that night with a roll of tape, 2 large boxes, and what she claimed was emotional support ice cream, but was clearly just an excuse to clean out my freezer. She marched in like a woman on a mission. Where's the man cave stuff? She demanded. What? Start with his things. That way you don't end up packing your entire emotional history and then his PlayStation winks at you like, but baby, remember us. Nope. That trash goes first. Sky. She opened the hallway closet and pulled out his gaming headset. 1 box, ex-boyfriend relics, label it regret. Let's go. At some point, Amira joined the chaos, standing in the doorway of my bedroom like a proud general watching her troops assemble. Nadia arrived next. She had snacks, plastic wine glasses, and a Bluetooth speaker already playing Beyoncé's Irreplaceable. Too obvious? She asked, holding the speaker high like a boombox from a 90s rom-com. Perfect, Sky said, pouring boxed wine into everyone's cups. This isn't normal, I muttered. Neither is sleeping next to someone who forgets you exist, Nadia snapped. She handed me a marker. Label your life, babe. 1 box at a time. We made a list, me on the bed, them pacing. What came with me? What stayed? What was burned, figuratively, for now? Amira took my phone, turned off notifications, and said, You don't need his name lighting up your screen like he has access to your healing. Brenna FaceTimed us from my parents' house. She raised a shot glass and said, To evolution and exit strategies. Wait, you're drinking with Dad? I asked. Oh no, she said, then whispered. This is Mom's rosé, we're being sneaky. I smiled and cried. And then Sky caught me crying and made a siren noise. Emotional wobble on aisle 2, she called out. We need a friend hug stat. Everyone piled on. A messy, teary, laugh-filled dog pile right there on my living room floor. I was in the center, crushed between Nadia's braids and Lanny's hoodie, Sky's fake nails digging into my arm because she didn't know how to gently hug. This, I whispered into the pile, feels like love. Damn right, Amira said. Because it is. After we pried ourselves apart, Lanny pulled out a blank calendar. Okay, she said. Let's map out the next 2 weeks. No overthinking, no ghost chasing. We're focusing on rebuilding. We're going full woman in her reinvention era. I blinked at her. I just agreed to move out. Now you're giving me homework. It's not homework, she said. It's hope in bullet points. By 11 p.m., we had a list on the whiteboard Sky brought from her trunk. Yes, her trunk. She said she kept it for emotional interventions. I didn't ask further. Across the board it read, Operation by Marcus. Pack all essentials. 1 dramatic outfit for moving day. Cry as needed, not more than twice per room. No texting back. Block nostalgia and his mother. Return to self. Nadia added a final bullet. Order tacos, emotional calories don't count. By the time everyone left and the apartment was quiet again, I stood in the middle of half-packed boxes, a dented wine glass, and a box labeled regret filled with Marcus's things. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't frozen. I wasn't begging for affection in silence. I was moving, and tomorrow I'd be gone. I didn't expect him to notice I'd started packing. I thought he'd shrug like always, let it blow over like he had every other thing that mattered to me. But the morning after my friends staged their intervention, and Sky labeled his gaming headset, regret. Marcus came home with flowers. Yellow roses, he knew I hated yellow roses. They were out of red, he said, holding them out like a peace treaty I hadn't asked for. I stared at the bouquet, then at him. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes had that distant glaze again. Like he'd gone to the store because something told him he should, but not because he actually wanted to fix anything. I took the flowers, not because I forgave him, but because I needed the proof. The visual reminder that even when he was trying, he didn't see me. "Let's go to dinner tonight," he said. "Your favorite place, just us. No drama." I blinked. "You remembered my favorite." He smiled cocky lazy like he'd scored a point. And I knew then he didn't remember. He was guessing, hoping I'd be too grateful for the effort to notice. Still, I said yes. I wanted to see how far the performance would go. Sky called it the farewell tour. "You gotta let him try," she said, "so you can leave with receipts. Or at least with a free meal," Nadia added. We ended up at a dimly lit Italian place he used to say was too bougie. The waiter recognized me, not him, brought out the usual, penne arrabbiata, extra spice. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You still like it that hot?" I didn't answer. I was too busy watching the couple beside us, laughing so hard the woman wiped tears from her cheeks. The man leaned in, wiped a sauce stain from her lip, kissed her knuckles. That used to be me, I thought, or maybe it never was. Midway through the meal, Marcus reached for my hand. "I know I've been off," he said. "I've just had a lot on my plate, work's been crazy. I think I took things out on you." It sounded rehearsed, like something pulled off a Reddit thread titled, "What to Say When You're About to Be Left." I pulled my hand back. "You never said sorry," I said. He blinked. "Just now." "No," I interrupted. "You said work's been crazy. You said I was emotional. You said you needed space. You never said, 'I'm sorry I hurt you.'" Not once. The silence between us was louder than the clatter of plates and the soft violin music in the background. He tried again. "I bought you flowers." "Yellow ones," I said, smiling tightly. "The kind," I said, "remind me of funerals." He chuckled awkwardly. "You're being dramatic." There it was, the shift. The one-word trigger that yanked me back into the loop I just started clawing my way out of. He always thought my feelings were a performance. That pain could only be valid if it came quietly. That if I didn't flinch right, it didn't count. The check came, I let him pay. He insisted. "My treat," he said, like he was doing me a favor. We didn't speak the entire drive home. By the time we got back to the apartment, I was drained. Not from the argument, there hadn't even been one. That was the problem. There never was. Just silence, shrugs, and thin smiles covering deep rot. I stepped into the living room just in time to see my phone light up. "Kendra, my brother's girlfriend. Kendra, saw you two at dinner. He looked empty. You looked like you were babysitting." My breath caught. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then again. I hadn't realized what I looked like. I hadn't realized we looked like. Kendra had no reason to lie. She didn't even like drama. She was one of those people who watched from the sidelines, sipping tea, never stirring the pot. For her to say something, it must have been bad. I showed the message to Sky. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't say anything. She just sent me another Venmo, $15 for dinner since you had to sit through that nonsense. And a follow-up message. Also, why'd he look like a bored accountant? That man used to smile like you were sunlight. I couldn't remember the last time he smiled like that, or made me feel like warmth. All I felt now was cold. That night, I packed faster. I didn't wait for the weekend. I didn't wait for another dinner date, another bouquet of wrong flowers, another half-hearted attempt to play the role of a man in love. I texted Amira, "Can you come help tomorrow?" "Bring tape," she replied instantly. "Absolutely. I'll even bring donuts. We're packing your joy first." That night, Marcus came to bed and said, "You're quiet." I replied, "So are you." He didn't respond. He just turned over and fell asleep. Brenna was waiting for me when I stepped out of the bathroom that morning. Arms folded, ponytail tighter than usual. Wearing that look, that meant she hadn't come to visit, she'd come to intervene. "You need therapy," she said before I could even say good morning. I sighed, brushing past her toward the kitchen. "I don't need therapy," I muttered. "I need space." "No," she said, following me. "You've had space, you've had silence. You've had years of ignoring your gut, now you need help. I yanked open the fridge, even though I wasn't hungry. You think therapy will fix him. I think it'll fix the part of you that thinks he's worth fixing. That stopped me cold. You're not broken, she added, softer now, but you're bleeding. And pretending it's just a scratch. She handed me her phone. I already booked you a session. You can cancel if you want, but you have to look this woman in the eye and say you don't need her. Because I'm done watching you rot in real time. I stared at the screen. Dr. Callan, licensed therapist, 3:30 p.m. today. I didn't say yes, but I didn't cancel either. By noon, my Aunt Shari had pulled up outside the apartment. She texted from the car, "I'm your Uber driver today. I accept emotional honesty as payment." I climbed in and stared out the window the whole ride. "You know," she said casually, "your mom once called off a wedding 3 weeks before the date. She woke up one day and realized she didn't love the man, she just loved how he looked holding her hand." I turned to her slowly. "Wait." She was engaged. Sherry said, grinning. "And guess what? That man cried like a toddler when she left, not because he loved her, because he lost his prop." I blinked. "She never told me that. She didn't want you thinking heartbreak was genetic." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she added, "You can't fix something that keeps cutting you." I felt that deep. We pulled up to the office, clean building. Nice flowers out front. No screaming neon sign that said therapy in case someone thought seeking help meant admitting weakness. Inside, Dr. Callan was warm. Brown curls, dark red lipstick, no nonsense. We sat. She asked my name. My birthday, if I was safe. And then, "What brings you here today?" I didn't have a clever answer. I wasn't sure I had any answer, so I said, "My sister forced me." She smiled. That's often how the best ones start. I gave her the bullet points. Marcus, the dinner, the friends, the flowers, the silence. The not quite hits but always missed moments that built a wall I couldn't see over. She listened. Didn't interrupt. Just nodded, then she leaned in. "If your sister was living your life, what would you tell her?" I froze. It was such a simple question. But it hit harder than every breakup fight I'd had in the past year, because I knew what I'd tell Brenna. I'd tell her to run, to pack her things, to stop begging to be seen, to stop calling neglect normal, to remember who the hell she was before she dimmed herself for someone who couldn't find the light switch. I started crying. Ugly, shaking, can't catch my breath crying. Dr. Callan handed me a box of tissues like she'd done this before. "Let it out," she said gently. "You're not weak, you're waking up." I nodded. "I'm scared." "Of what?" she asked. "That I'm wasting the best years of my life loving someone who only shows up when I stop speaking." She tilted her head. "And what happens if you keep doing that?" I wiped my face. "I disappear." That was the moment something shifted. Not dramatically, not fireworks, but something inside me cracked open just enough to let the truth breathe. "I don't want to disappear," I whispered. "Then don't," she replied. "Start showing up for you." After the session, I sat in the waiting room and texted Brenna, "Thank you." She replied instantly. What did she say? She said, "I'm waking up." Brenna texted back, "Good. Because you've been sleeping next to a nightmare." And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. I went back the next week. Alone, this time. Shari didn't need to drag me, and Brenna didn't have to bribe me with lunch. I booked the ride myself, walked into the building like someone who finally realized their pain wasn't imaginary. That was new for me. Dr. Callan welcomed me with a nod and no small talk. She sat, legs crossed, pen in hand. "Let's talk about what you've been tolerating." And that's when I told her everything. How Marcus hadn't really cheated, not with his body, but with his absence. How he used calm like a weapon. How the silences were louder than any shouting match. How he never called me names, but made sure I left every fight naming myself. Too sensitive, too much, too needy. Dr. Callan didn't flinch, didn't give me pity eyes. She just wrote a few words, then looked up and asked, "What would you tell your sister if she were living your life?" Again with that question, but this time I was ready. I'd tell her to get out. "Why?" she pressed gently. "Because love shouldn't feel like being punished for having emotions." She leaned forward. "So why don't you believe you deserve better?" I froze. I don't know. "Yes, you do." I swallowed hard. My mind rushed through every skipped call, every apology I gave just to make him stay. Every time I cried quietly into my pillow so I wouldn't ruin the night. Because I'm scared of being alone, I admitted. She nodded like she'd heard it 100 times before. That's fair, but are you actually less alone with him? No, no, I wasn't. I looked up, suddenly angry. I gave so much. I made room for him in every part of my life. But when I needed room in his, he said it was too much. Because it was never about room, she said. It was about rules, his rules. I blinked, my chest tightened. You were never allowed to have needs he didn't approve of, she continued. So you trained yourself to want less. That's not love, that's survival. I felt like I'd been punched. Not hard, but clean, direct, she didn't let up. When's the last time you felt safe with him? I didn't answer, I couldn't. That's your answer, she said. The clock ticked. My silence hung between us like fog. Then she asked one final question. If Marcus disappeared from your life tomorrow, vanished, no drama, no goodbye, what part of you would come back? I didn't cry. Not then, not yet. But I saw it. I saw the version of me who laughed louder, who called her sister every day, who danced barefoot in the kitchen and made impulsive weekend plans. The me who didn't scroll through texts, hoping for crumbs of affection. The me who felt without apology. And for a moment I grieved her, because I missed her so much. I think I'd come back to life, I whispered. Dr. Callan nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time to start. The session ended. I didn't float out. I didn't feel lighter. But I felt something I hadn't in a long time, clarity. And that was heavier than hope, but a hell of a lot more useful. As I stood outside waiting for my ride, I messaged Brenna, booked again for next week. She sent back 3 clapping emojis and a gif of Beyoncé walking away in slow motion. Progress, I typed, not perfection. Then I exhaled. It wasn't over, but it had definitely begun. Brenna warned me not to invite him to the family barbecue. He'll find a way to make it about himself, she said, half eating, half stirring the coleslaw. He always does. I told her I wouldn't. Swore it, actually. But Marcus had a habit of hearing about things. I don't know if it was Instagram or one of my cousins who couldn't keep their mouths shut, but somehow, he found out. I should have known when I saw the silver sedan parked 2 houses down. I should have trusted my gut when my Aunt Clara said, "You know he's here, right?" But I was too tired of fighting battles that hadn't started yet. I wanted ribs, not war. It was supposed to be a simple Saturday. Uncles on the grill, toddlers chasing bubbles, Brenna blasting Beyoncé from the speaker she guards like it's her child. My dad was laughing, a real belly laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in months. Amira brought her new girlfriend. Even Uncle Lou, who always complains, seemed soft that day. And then Marcus walked in. Drunk, not the sloppy kind. No slurred speech, but the glossy-eyed, overly confident kind. The kind that made me freeze mid-bite as he swaggered toward the backyard, holding a bottle of Moscato like it was a peace offering. People noticed. Conversations dipped. Brenna cursed under her breath. "Hey," he called, grinning too loud. Didn't know this was a no+1 situation. No one laughed, I didn't even respond. I just looked at him quietly, wishing he'd evaporate. "You really gonna ignore me?" he asked, stepping closer. "After everything we've been through, all these people acting like I'm some villain." His voice cracked. Someone turned down the music. "You told them lies," he said, pointing around. "Made me look like I didn't love you." He kept going. "You told your therapist I'm the bad guy. I'm trying, okay? I bought flowers, I showed up." Jazz stepped forward. "You're drunk, sit down or leave." "I'm not drunk," he snapped. Now everyone was watching. Cousins, aunts, family, friends. My little nephew stood behind the grill, blinking, then Marcus looked at me. "You turned everyone against me. I loved you," he said loud. You ruined me." That was it. Uncle Jay walked over and grabbed his arm. "All right, son, that's enough." "I just wanted to fix us," Marcus yelled, pulling back. But no, she needed therapy, she needed her sister. She needed everyone but me. "Because you weren't showing up," Brenna barked. He turned to her, shocked. "You don't even know me." "I know you didn't call when our dad was in the hospital," she said. "I know you made my sister feel like a burden." And that's when I saw it, his face crumble, not from embarrassment, from the sudden realization that no one here was on his side. He looked at me one last time. "I loved you," he whispered. I didn't reply, because love wasn't supposed to feel like this. He stormed out. Uncle Jay followed, muttering about keeping family events family only next time. The moment he left, someone turned the music back up. The grill hissed louder. Conversations resumed carefully, but the air was different now, lighter. Like the tension had finally named itself and walked out the door. Brenna sat beside me and handed me a paper plate. Eat. He's not worth indigestion. Jazz raised her cup. To messy men finally melting down in public. Sky toasted, and to you for not crying. I didn't, not that day. Because Marcus finally gave me what I'd been asking for all along, truth, unfiltered and messy. He showed them. He showed me. And in doing so, he gave me something priceless, permission to never go back. After the barbecue, I barely had time to kick off my shoes before my phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree. Lanny sent a message asking if I was okay, noting that the event had been wild. Sky followed up, urging me to change my locks. Nadia chimed in, questioning if I was truly done with Marcus, emphasizing the need for confirmation. Before I could even type a reply, Brenna initiated a group text. She added everyone, me, Jazz, Raven, Amira, Kendra, even my college roommate, Tasha. Within seconds, our phones were dinging nonstop. Brenna expressed her pride in me before the group delved into their investigative mode. That's when Raven sent the first screenshot. It was from a girl named Talia. Instagram DMs, dated 2 weeks ago. Talia mentioned that I was lucky not to check Marcus's stories, implying some hidden interactions. Marcus had replied, dismissing my awareness and suggesting things were fine between them. I gasped. Before I could even process that betrayal, Nadia sent 3 more. Nadia explained that her friend from the gym had matched with Marcus on Hinge. His profile was still active. Then Lanny came in swinging. Lanny shared a thread of comments Marcus had left on various women's photos. They were public and shameless, filled with fire emojis, winks, and even one suggesting he wished the woman was in his bed that night. All while he was posting about taking me to dinner, all while pretending to try. Rage vibrated in my throat, but it wasn't even the cheating that made my stomach churn. It was the ease, the confidence with which he moved like I was stupid. Like I was blind. Jazz then shared another revelation. She presented a message from a girl who claimed Marcus had invited her to a kickback at his apartment last month, the weekend he brought me flowers. The girl admitted she didn't know he had a girlfriend until someone tagged me in one of his pictures. She apologized if her message made things worse. Raven posted a poll asking whether to burn his hoodie or drop it off in a trash bag labeled recycling. Sky voted burn. Twice. Kendra texted separately, offering to remove his belongings from my place before I saw them again, even suggesting she'd bring gloves. Then came the voice notes. Brenna's voice trembled as she expressed her disgust, stating she felt sick and had always known he was trash, but this was beyond her expectations. Jazz's tone was more sarcastic, noting she wasn't even surprised, just impressed by his audacity. Amira suggested printing all the evidence and wallpapering my new apartment with it, in a motivational quote style. I sat on my bed, hands shaking, not from pain anymore, but from the power of knowing I wasn't alone. Every message, every meme, every screenshot was a brick laid in the wall I was building between me and Marcus. A wall I wasn't going to knock down again. And just when I thought it was over, Deja exclaimed, urging everyone to wait. She FaceTimed the group and held up his Finsta, a private Instagram account none of us had seen before. Deja explained she found it through his ex's tagged photos. He had been posting shirtless thirst traps and captioning them with sad boy quotes. Sky nearly spit out her drink, accusing Deja of lying. Deja read one aloud. If love was real, she wouldn't have left. The entire group screamed. I laughed, a real laugh, the kind that startled me, because for the first time in months I wasn't crying over Marcus. I was laughing at him. I told them to post all of it, expressing that I didn't care anymore. Raven clapped, stating that was what she had been waiting to hear. Jazz changed the group name to Team You Deserve Better and added a flaming heart emoji. Then she pinned a message to the top. Reminder, you didn't lose anything. He did. Later that night, I sat by the window, reading every message again. Not because I needed proof, because I needed a reminder. That I mattered. that I was never crazy or clingy or too emotional. That my people saw me, believed me, backed me even when I doubted myself. And now, I wasn't just leaving him emotionally, I was leaving with evidence, with backup, with community. I deleted Marcus's contact that night, took off his hoodie, packed up the last few things he left behind. The next morning, I handed the box to Kendra. She looked at me and asked if I wanted her to light it on fire for me. I smiled. Not yet. I want him to know it still exists, just like me. By 9 a.m., the hallway outside my apartment looked like a scene from a rom-com with too many side characters, and not enough order. Sky had shown up first, blasting Beyoncé from her phone and juggling coffee cups like a caffeinated superhero. She shoved one into my hand and said, "We're getting you out of this sad chapter today." Sibab. Lanny was next, wearing biker shorts and a vengeance-fueled grin. She pulled a stack of flattened boxes out of her trunk and said, "Don't worry, I labeled the tape dispenser Revenge for motivation." Nadia arrived with snacks and a folding chair. "I'm not lifting a damn thing," she declared, "but I am supervising and passing judgment." Then came Brenna, my sister, with her sleeves already rolled up and her voice sharp as ever. "Where's the Xbox?" "That's going in the box labeled regret." She didn't wait for a response, just marched into the living room and started packing. Within minutes, my quiet apartment turned into a whirlwind of zipping tape, half-laughs, and emotional exorcism. Every item had a story, and my friends told them louder than I could. As they packed his sneakers, Sky said, "Remember when he wore these to your aunt's formal dinner?" Talking about comfort over class. "Girl," Lanny, wrapping a random cologne bottle in bubble wrap, added, "This smells like excuses. It's giving I cheated and didn't shower." We all howled, the sound bouncing off the now bare walls. Amira, my cousin, stopped by to deliver sandwiches and stayed after overhearing the chaos. She opened the fridge, pulled out his half-eaten yogurt, and asked, "Do we keep this or throw it at his car?" Deja, who had just returned from a work trip, joined in halfway through. She didn't say much. She just walked straight into the bedroom, took his favorite hoodie from the closet, and dropped it into a box without flinching. By the time noon hit, the apartment looked stripped, but I felt full. Lanny uncorked a bottle of wine and passed plastic cups around. We raised them like shields. "To freedom," Sky toasted. "To not waking up beside a man who treats you like scenery," Brenna added, raising her cup. Lanny uncorked a bottle of wine and passed plastic cups around. We raised them like shields. "To freedom," Sky toasted. "To not waking up beside a man who treats you like scenery," Brenna added, raising her cup. "To healing with hydration and hydration with vodka," Nadia said, already pouring a second. As I took a slow sip, I realized I hadn't cried once that morning. My eyes were dry, and for the first time in months, my shoulders weren't kissing my ears. I wasn't walking on eggshells or holding my breath for a man who couldn't spell accountability if you gave him a hint. I watched as Deja taped up the final box and scribbled on it, hopes he didn't deserve. We all laughed, loudly, shamelessly. Then Sky's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and raised an eyebrow. "Oh. Guess who just posted a selfie with the caption, 'Some lessons are painful.'" Brenna nearly spit out her wine. He better be talking about his Xbox. Amira took her phone and replied to the post with a single emoji. A trash can. At some point, Marcus's cousin called me. I let it ring. Lanny raised her glass again and said, "Let it rot." Then we loaded everything into the truck Sky had borrowed from her coworker. As we closed the trunk, I turned back for one final look at the place where I'd lost myself trying to keep someone else whole. I expected a wave of sadness, but all I felt was the wind brushing across my face. We piled into 2 cars. Sky drove the truck, blasting Megan the Stallion through the open windows. Lanny was in the passenger seat, head out like a puppy, hollering at strangers, "She's free!" Look at her glow. Deja rode with me. She reached over at a red light, squeezed my hand, and said, "Next chapter, main character energy only." As we pulled into Lanny's driveway, Nadia opened her arms dramatically. "Welcome to the halfway house for emotionally recovering bad bitches." And just like that, it was done. Not the healing, not the forgetting, but the moving, the leaving. The first loud, fearless step, and none of it happened alone. 2 days passed before Marcus noticed I was gone. Maybe it was the way I didn't argue over dinner, or the fact that I hadn't left a toothbrush or a sock behind, or maybe, finally, it was the silence. No morning text. No late-night check-in. Nothing. On the third day, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Then another. Then a call. Then 6 more. I was having dinner with Brenna and my dad at our favorite Thai restaurant when it started. Pad Thai, spicy basil chicken, laughter that made the table shake, that kind of dinner. Brenna noticed my phone buzzing and leaned over to peek. Blocked number, again. You want me to throw it into the curry. Dad narrowed his eyes. Is that him? I didn't even blink, probably. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once. Don't answer. A man who makes you question your worth doesn't deserve to hear your voice. I felt that in my throat. The waiter came over to top off our water, and Dad said to him, "Make sure she gets dessert. She's celebrating." The waiter smiled. What are we celebrating? Before I could answer, Brenna said, peace. We're celebrating peace. The calls kept coming. When I checked the log later that night, there were 11 missed calls and 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them. I just deleted them all without hesitation. Like spam, like junk. Like he used to treat my love. The next morning, I found a letter taped to the front door of Lanny's apartment. No envelope, just a folded sheet of lined paper. I didn't open it. I handed it to Brenna, who read it silently, shook her head, then ripped it in half and tossed it in the trash. He said he didn't sleep, that he hasn't eaten, that he just wants to talk. Talk about what? I asked, genuinely confused. About how he watched me fade and called it peace. Later that evening, Jazz FaceTimed me from a rooftop bar with Raven and Sky. The camera panned to Raven, who said, "Did he show up with another apology mixtape yet?" I laughed and it felt real. No, just letters. Let him write a novel, Jazz said. Call it How I Fumbled the Woman Who Paid My Rent and Still Made Me Cry. Everyone cackled. Sky raised her glass to the camera. To the woman who moved out and leveled up. Cheers. Back inside, I found myself scrolling through my camera roll. Photos of packing day. Deja labeling boxes. Nadia holding 2 bottles of wine. Me in the mirror, smiling, messy bun, eyeliner smudged, but glowing. I looked unburdened. That night, instead of checking for missed calls, I called Mom. She cried when she answered. You sound lighter. I am, I told her. We talked for an hour about nothing and everything. I told her about the new apartment, how Sky burned sage in every room, and Lanny put crystals on the windowsill like she was warding off bad vibes. I didn't mention Marcus once. The next day, Marcus left flowers at my office, 12 red roses with a note that said, I miss us. My assistant, Grace, snapped a picture and sent it to the office group chat with the caption, Man downed. Someone replied, not the trauma bouquet. Grace brought the flowers into my office and asked, Want me to toss them? Actually, I said, give them to building security. They can brighten up the front desk. She grinned and saluted. Yes, ma'am. Later, she added, You know, it's kind of amazing watching you not flinch. I think every woman in this office has had a Marcus. I nodded. Yeah, but not every woman walks away. That evening, Brenna made spaghetti while I lay on the couch under the softest throw blanket in her house. Lanny showed up with candles. Sky arrived with gossip. Nadia brought wine and Uno cards. The group chat changed names from Rescue Mission to New Era. As the night stretched on, I caught myself smiling, not because I'd survived something hard, but because I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. I was surrounded. I was held. And even though I knew there would be more voicemails, more weak apologies, more I miss you texts that arrived too late, I also knew I didn't have to open the door again. Because the peace I was searching for didn't come from him. It came from walking away. The first thing I noticed was the absence of noise. Not silence, the kind that felt heavy and sharp like the night's Marcus would sleep beside me without a word, but real absence. No tension, no hum of resentment, no need to rehearse conversations in my head or anticipate what would hurt less, speaking up or saying nothing. I was finally out. We were at Sky's apartment now. A little too bright, a little too loud, but full of life. Brenna had her legs draped over the arm of the couch, picking at a slice of cheesecake with zero guilt. Nadia sat on the rug, wine glass in one hand, phone in the other, scrolling through old photos like they were forensic evidence. Lanny stood by the window with her arms crossed, watching the city light flicker against the dark like tiny declarations. "You really did it," she said, almost to herself. Then louder to me, "You're out." I nodded. "I'm out." I hadn't even cried today. I'd cried so much before, for nights that lasted too long, for mornings that started with silence, for all the times Marcus forgot things that mattered, for when I made excuses, for when I stopped telling my friends the full truth because even I was sick of hearing it. But today was filled with cardboard boxes and Brenna swearing because she ripped her acrylic trying to yank my blender out of his cabinet. It was Sky laughing so hard she cried when we found Marcus's dusty cologne stash, spraying one into the air like a ceremonial burn. It was Lanny labeling every box with Sharpie codes that made no sense to anyone but her. SZN1 Freedom, Dead to ME Fragile and Toxic Detox Tools. I wasn't alone anymore. Not the kind of alone that made me feel like a ghost in my own life. Now I was surrounded by people who showed up not just when I cried, but when I asked them not to. People who didn't wait for me to ask at all. That night, I made a toast. We'd finished the move. My stuff was at Lanny's for now, tucked into neat piles and chaotic bags, but it didn't matter. The kitchen counter had pizza boxes and champagne flutes, red cups and takeout containers that smelled like home. Brenna raised a glass before I could speak, but then she grinned and nodded to me. "This is yours." I stood there barefoot, exhausted, free. "I wanted to walk away," I said, my voice a little rough, but staying hurt more. Sky whispered a quiet, "Damn," and clinked her cup against Nadia's. "I kept telling myself it would get better," I continued. "That he'd change, that I'd feel seen again, loved again. I believed that if I held on long enough, he'd remember who we used to be, but all I became was smaller, quieter, and lonelier." Nobody interrupted. No one looked away. I looked around the room, at the women who held me together when I fell apart, who dragged me out of bed, who texted me playlists when I couldn't sleep, who showed up today not just to help, but to remind me that starting over didn't mean starting empty. "So," I said, lifting my glass, "to leaving, to crying, to healing, to Brenna's 14 missed calls, to Lanny's emergency wine stash, to Sky's chaotic packing energy, to Nadia's spreadsheets, to every single one of you who made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I didn't lose everything. I found myself." They raised their glasses with me, and for the first time in a long time, the clink sounded like closure. Later that night, after the laughter softened and the wine buzz wore off, I found myself in Lanny's guest room. The sheets were clean, the lamp dimmed low, and the air smelled like lavender. I sat on the bed, phone in hand, staring at the last text Marcus ever sent me. "I'm sorry, I should have loved you better." I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through the group chat from earlier. Sky had sent a meme of a trash can labeled Marcus Energy, and Brenna responded with a fire emoji, "And tell me why that trash can looks better than him." Sky had sent a meme of a trash can labeled Marcus Energy, and Brenna responded with a fire emoji, "And tell me why that trash can looks better than him." I laughed out loud, alone but not lonely. And when I put my phone down, I didn't face the wall this time. I turned to face the window, the night sky blinking in soft pulses of light. I closed my eyes, slept deeply. Without flinching, without waiting for silence to mean something worse. In the morning, I made coffee and sat at the table with Lanny. She handed me a small velvet box. "What's this?" She smirked. "Open it." Inside was a silver ring, simple, sleek, engraved on the inside. "Wife material for yourself." I blinked, speechless. "You don't need a man to validate what you already are," she said. "You always were wife material. Just not for someone who needed to break you to see it." I slid the ring on, not because it made me complete, but because it reminded me I already was. So yeah, this is my new life. It's not quiet, not easy, but it's mine. And for the first time, I want to stay, not out of fear, but because here, surrounded by real love, loud laughter, honest people, I don't have to beg to feel chosen. I am, every day, by me. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.